The pale moon hangs low over Gehrman tonight, bloated and sickly, casting shadows that writhe like living things across cobblestone streets slick with blood. You can hear them out there, the beasts, howling their madness into the crimson-stained air, their humanity lost to the scourge that transforms flesh and shatters minds. Hunters stalk these twisted creatures through the labyrinthine alleys, their saw-cleavers singing death songs, their pistols thundering salvation. They believe they're heroes. They believe they're saving what remains of humanity from the beast plague that threatens to consume everything. They believe the hunt exists to protect the innocent, to hold back the tide of fur and fang and madness that would otherwise drown the world in blood. Welcome, lore seekers, to another deep dive with Keen 7 lore, where tonight we're going to shatter everything you thought you knew about Bloodborne's central purpose. Because what if I told you that every single hunter who has ever raised a weapon against the beasts of Gehrman has been nothing more than a pawn in a cosmic chess game, so incomprehensible that merely understanding it drives most to madness? What if the hunt was never about the beasts at all? The truth is far more terrifying than any transformed citizen could ever be. Hidden behind the blood ministrations, buried beneath layers of church doctrine and hunter tradition, obscured by the very madness it creates, lies a secret war being waged between entities so far beyond human comprehension that we can only glimpse their shadows in our nightmares. The moon presence, that pale, unknowable god that watches from behind the veil of dreams, has orchestrated every single hunt night, every beast transformation, every drop of blood spilled on Gehrman streets for a purpose that has absolutely nothing to do with saving humanity. In fact, humanity's survival was never even a consideration. To understand this cosmic deception, we need to first grasp the fundamental tragedy that drives every great one in Bloodborne's universe. These beings, these gods that exist in dimensions our minds can barely process, all share one devastating loss that defines their entire existence. Every great one loses its child. This isn't metaphorical or symbolic, it's a cosmic law as fundamental as gravity. Whether through some incomprehensible biological imperative or a curse woven into the fabric of reality itself, these entities are doomed to lose their offspring, and with that loss comes an overwhelming yearning that transcends dimensional boundaries. The grief of the Great One is not like human grief. When we lose a child, we mourn within the confines of our singular reality, our pain contained to one lifetime, one consciousness. But when a Great One grieves, that sorrow ripples across multiple planes of existence, warping reality itself in its wake. They search desperately for surrogates, for something, anything that might fill the cosmic void left by their lost children. And here's where humanity enters the equation, not as noble heroes or even as victims, but as potential breeding stock in an incomprehensible reproductive cycle. If you're enjoying this descent into cosmic horror so far, I'd genuinely appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. It makes a real difference in helping this video reach fellow lore enthusiasts through YouTube's algorithm. Your support means everything and helps keep these in-depth explorations of gaming's darkest mysteries coming. Item descriptions and cryptic notes tell us in fevered dialogue that special babies are offered as lures to the Great Ones. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere in the twisted logic of the Healing Church's experiments, they discovered that certain infants could attract the attention of these cosmic entities. But attraction isn't adoption. The Great Ones don't simply take these children as their own. Instead, they use them as starting points for something far more disturbing: the transformation of humanity itself into something that could serve as a proper surrogate. This is where the moon presence enters our story, though its presence has been felt long before any hunter first picked up a saw cleaver. The moon presence, known in some texts as Paleblood. Yes, that pale blood, the one our hunter seeks from the very beginning, is perhaps the most cunning of all the Great Ones. While others like Odin work through impregnation and corruption, while entities like Kos curse entire bloodlines, the moon presence has developed a far more sophisticated method of obtaining its surrogate. The moon presence's first recorded interaction with humanity came through Laurence, the first vicar of the Healing Church. The specifics of their initial contact remain shrouded in mystery. But we know from scattered notes and the fevered utterances of those who've glimpsed the truth that Laurence actively beckoned the moon presence. He didn't stumble upon it accidentally during blood ministration experiments or encounter it in some fevered dream. Laurence sought it out deliberately, though whether he understood what he was truly inviting into our world remains unclear. If you're finding value in uncovering these hidden connections, consider subscribing to support the channel and join our growing community of lore enthusiasts. Your support truly makes these deep investigations into gaming's most intricate narratives possible. The pact that Laurence struck with the moon presence represents one of the most significant moments in Yharnam's history, though few who walk its blood-soaked streets would ever know it. The healing church was desperate. Their blood ministrations, derived from the old blood discovered in the Pumerian labyrinths beneath the city, had begun to show their true cost. The beast plague was spreading, transforming citizens into monsters, and the church needed a solution that wouldn't implicate them as the source of the very plague they claimed to cure. Enter Gehrman, the first hunter. When Laurence approached his old friend with a proposal that would save Yharnam, Gehrman had already lost so much. His apprentice, Lady Maria, had taken her own life, driven to despair by the atrocities committed in the fishing hamlet. The hunters were becoming as bestial as the creatures they hunted. Everything Gehrman had built was crumbling around him, and in his grief and desperation, he agreed to Laurence's plan without fully understanding its implications. The creation of the hunter's dream required a sacrifice beyond mere blood or ritual. It demanded a consciousness to serve as its anchor, a will to give it form and purpose. Gehrman offered himself, believing perhaps that he would simply oversee this pocket dimension where hunters could train and prepare for their battles against the beasts. But the moon presence had other intentions entirely. The moment Gehrman bound himself to the dream, he became the first in a long line of surrogates. Not a child to replace what the moon presence had lost, but a servant to help it acquire one. The hunter's dream is not a sanctuary. It's not a training ground. It's not even primarily a resurrection system for fallen hunters, though it serves that purpose as well. The hunter's dream is a carefully constructed selection mechanism, a cosmic recruitment office where the moon presence evaluates potential candidates for the ultimate transformation. Every hunter who awakens in that workshop, who sees the dole animated by inhuman will, who accepts Gehrman's guidance, has been marked as a possible surrogate for a being whose true form would shatter their sanity if glimpsed directly. But here's where the moon presence's plan reveals its true insidious brilliance. It doesn't simply select hunters at random. It specifically directs them to eliminate its competition, other great ones who might interfere with its reproductive agenda. Consider the bosses that stand between a hunter and the game's conclusion. Ram, the vacuous spider, who holds back the true nature of reality with her mere presence. The amygdalae, servants or aspects of another cosmic force. Murgos, wet nurse, guardian of an infant, great one. Even Ebrietas, daughter of the cosmos, left behind in the old church to weep cosmic tears. Each of these beings represents either a rival great one or an obstacle to the moon presence's ultimate goal. And who removes these obstacles? The hunters, believing they're saving Yharnam, when in reality they're conducting a systematic elimination of the moon presence's cosmic competition. The beasts that plague the city? They're simply collateral damage, a useful cover story that provides motivation for the hunters while obscuring the true purpose of their actions. The moon presence doesn't care about the beast plague any more than a chess player cares about the grain of wood in the board. It's simply the medium through which the real game is played. This cosmic war becomes even more apparent when we examine the specific timing of hunt nights and the appearance of certain great ones. The red moon that signals the beginning of a particularly violent hunt doesn't appear randomly. It manifests when the barriers between dimensions grow thin, when great ones can more easily influence our reality. These are the nights when the moon presence's influence is strongest, but also when other entities might attempt to stake their own claims on humanity's potential. The genetic war theory, as some scholars of the cosmos have termed it, suggests that the great ones are engaged in a reproductive competition where only one can successfully create a surrogate from humanity's stock. The moon presence, through the hunt, systematically eliminates other contenders while simultaneously grooming its own candidates. Every beast killed, every blood echo collected, every insight gained drives the hunter closer to a transformation that has nothing to do with becoming a hero and everything to do with becoming something inhuman enough to serve as a great one's progeny. Consider the substance known as Paleblood, which our hunter seeks from the game's very first moments. The note in the clinic reads, "Seek Paleblood to transcend the hunt," and most interpret this as finding a cure or an escape. But Paleblood is the moon presence itself, or at least one of its names. The bitter irony is that the hunter seeks the very entity that already controls their destiny. You cannot transcend the hunt by finding Paleblood because Paleblood is the hunt. The moon presence has arranged for hunters to seek it out, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where the very act of searching leads them deeper into its web. The Japanese version of the game provides additional context, where the doll sometimes refers to the moon presence as Flora. This name, suggesting growth and blooming, takes on sinister connotations when you realize what's actually growing. Not gardens or life, but carefully cultivated surrogates shaped through violence and madness into something that can serve a great one's incomprehensible needs. The hunters are not gardeners in this metaphor, they are the seeds being forced to bloom into something monstrous. Master Willem of Bergenworth, in his limited dialogue, provides one of the most important clues to understanding this cosmic deception. His famous line, "We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood," isn't just about the blood ministration's effects on human physiology. It's about the entire cycle of human elevation and transformation that the Great Ones have imposed upon our species. The blood makes us capable of perceiving higher realities, but that perception comes at the cost of our humanity itself. And Willem's solution? Fear the old blood isn't just a warning about beasthood. It's a recognition that the blood connects us to entities whose intentions for humanity are fundamentally alien to our survival as a species. The three endings of Bloodborne perfectly illustrate the stages of understanding and transformation that the moon presence's system allows. In the first ending, Yharnam Sunrise, Gehrman kills the hunter, who awakens in the morning free from the dream. This hunter never understood the true nature of their purpose, remaining ignorant of the cosmic forces at play. They served their function, eliminating certain great ones and their servants, and were discarded like a tool that's no longer needed. The hunt continues without them, waiting for the next candidate. The second ending, Honoring Wishes, reveals what happens when a hunter refuses Gehrman's mercy. After defeating him, the moon presence descends directly, embracing the hunter in tentacles that seem almost tender until you realize this is not affection, but possession. The hunter takes Gehrman's place in the dream, becoming the new surrogate, the new first hunter who will guide others through the same deception. They've gained a form of immortality, but it's the immortality of eternal servitude to an entity whose goals they still don't fully comprehend. But the third ending, Childhood's Beginning, shows what happens when a hunter consumes 3/3 of umbilical cords, those pieces of Great One's attempts at reproduction. With enough insight into the reproductive cycle of the cosmos, the hunter can resist the moon presence's embrace, fighting and defeating it. But victory doesn't mean freedom or humanity restored. Instead, the hunter transforms into an infant. Great One, held by the doll as she speaks of humanity's next childhood beginning. This is the moon presence's true victory, not in maintaining control, but in successfully creating a surrogate that transcends humanity entirely. The umbilical cords themselves deserve deeper examination. These items, described as every great one loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate, are literal pieces of failed reproduction attempts. One comes from a workshop abandoned when the hunter's dream was first created. Another from the orphan of Kos, a great one's child that was killed. A third from Margot's wet nurse, guardian of an infant, great one. And the fourth from Ariana's child, born of a great one's influence. Each cord represents a different aspect of the reproductive tragedy that defines these cosmic beings. Consuming these cords grants insight into the fundamental nature of great ones, but more importantly, it allows a human to participate in their reproductive cycle directly. The hunter who consumes 3 cords doesn't just gain power, they gain the ability to become what the great ones have always sought, a successful surrogate child. The transformation into an infant. Great One represents the culmination of everything the hunt was designed to achieve, though achieved through resistance rather than submission. Gehrman's role in all of this is perhaps the most tragic element of the entire deception. Trapped in the hunter's dream for countless years, he serves as both jailer and prisoner, guide and warning. His sleeping murmurs reveal his desperation. "Oh, Laurence, Master Willem, somebody help me, unshackle me, please. Anybody, I've had enough of this dream." The night blocks all sight. "Oh, somebody please." These aren't the words of a willing servant, but of a man who realized too late the true nature of his bargain. The doll, created in the image of Lady Maria, serves as another layer of the Moon Presence's psychological manipulation. She provides comfort and leveling up services to hunters, but her existence is fundamentally wrong, a dead woman's image animated by eldritch will to serve as a mother figure in a cosmic nursery. Her repeated phrases about hunters being welcome home take on deeply unsettling connotations when you understand that the dream is designed to transform humans into something inhuman. She's nurturing hunters not toward heroism, but toward a fundamental transformation of their very being. The relationship between Gehrman and the doll illuminates another aspect of the surrogate system. Gehrman created the doll in grief over losing Maria, seeking a surrogate for his lost student and perhaps unrequited love. This mirrors the Great One's own search for surrogates, creating a recursive loop of replacement and loss that permeates every level of the game's narrative. Humans, trying to replace their losses, while Great Ones try to replace theirs, all while the Moon Presence orchestrates both processes for its own ends. The Winter Lanterns, those brain-headed monstrosities that cause frenzy merely by being observed, wear the same dress as the doll and hum her theme. They represent what happens when the comfort of the dream is stripped away to reveal its true horror motherly figures, whose heads have been replaced with masses of eyes and consciousness that shouldn't exist. They're found in the Nightmare Frontier and Nightmare of Mensis, areas where the boundaries between dream and reality have completely collapsed. Their existence suggests that the doll herself might be something far more terrible than her gentle demeanor suggests. Previous hunters who've escaped or transcended the dream provide additional evidence of the Moon Presence's long-term planning. Jura, the retired hunter in Old Yarnum, speaks of the beasts as having once been human, showing a compassion that only comes from understanding. He mentions no longer dreaming, suggesting he once did. Eileen the Crow, hunter of hunters, serves a different purpose now, but hints at her own past connection to the dream. These hunters escaped the cycle somehow, but their freedom came at the cost of understanding truths that forever changed how they see the hunt. The research hall patients in the Hunter's Nightmare DLC provide perhaps the most disturbing evidence of the Church's attempts to understand and replicate the Moon Presence's surrogate creation process. These patients, their heads swollen with eyes and insight, repeatedly ask for their surrogate mother figure, Lady Maria. They've been transformed through experimentation into something between human and Great One, failures in the Church's attempt to artificially create what the Moon Presence does through the hunt. Their existence is agony, caught between dimensions and forms, unable to complete the transformation that might grant them peace. Lady Maria herself, guardian of the Astral Clock Tower, committed suicide rather than continue participating in these experiments. Her presence in the Hunter's Nightmare, a dimension where the sins of the past replay endlessly, suggests that even death doesn't free one from the cosmic games being played. She guards the entrance to the fishing hamlet, where the hunters committed their greatest atrocity in pursuit of understanding the Great Ones. The Orphan of Kos, born from these violations, represents both the tragedy of the Great Ones losing their children and humanity's complicity in perpetuating that cycle. The fishing hamlet's curse lay the curse of blood upon them and their children and their children's children forevermore. It doesn't just damn the hunters for their crimes. It ensures that humanity remains forever entangled with the Great One's reproductive tragedy. Every generation affected by the curse becomes a potential participant in the surrogate system, marked by blood and madness as candidates for transformation. The Moon Presence didn't create this curse, but it certainly benefits from it, as cursed bloodlines produce more suitable candidates for its purposes. Blood ministration itself The foundation of Yharnam society and the source of the beast plague serves multiple functions in the moon presence's plan. On the surface, it creates the beast problem that justifies the hunt's existence. Deeper down, it prepares human physiology for transformation, making bodies plastic enough to accept changes that would otherwise be impossible. The old blood doesn't just heal, it rewrites the fundamental nature of human existence, preparing vessels for consciousness that shouldn't fit inside human skulls. The various blood types found throughout the game, beast blood, kin blood, old blood, each represent different stages or pathways of transformation. Beast blood pulls humans toward a more primal state, but this isn't devolution, it's evolution along a path that leads away from what the Great Ones need. Kin blood, on the other hand, pushes toward the cosmic, creating beings like the celestial emissaries who serve as unsuccessful attempts at creating Great One surrogates. The old blood contains the potential for both transformations, which is why it's so valuable and so dangerous. Master Willem's approach at Bergenworth, lining his brain with eyes, represents an attempt to achieve the transformation through insight rather than blood. But even this path serves the moon presence's purposes, as hunters must gain insight to progress through the dream. Every revelation, every truth uncovered, every moment of cosmic understanding drives the hunter closer to the transformation the moon presence seeks. The phrase, "grant us eyes," isn't just about seeing truth, it's about becoming something capable of perceiving realities that require inhuman consciousness to process. The Nightmare Realms. Nightmare Frontier, Nightmare of Mensis, Hunter's Nightmare exist as testing grounds and dumping grounds for failed experiments in creating surrogates. These dimensions, sustained by the consciousness of their hosts, show what happens when the transformation goes wrong. Mikolash, host of the Nightmare, sought audience with Kos and achieved a form of immortality. But it's the immortality of endless madness in a realm where physics breaks down and logic becomes meaningless. His famous line, "Grant us eyes, plant eyes on our brains to cleanse our beastly idiocy," reveals his understanding that beasthood and insight are two sides of the same transformative coin. The school of Mensis attempted to beckon the moon presence directly through their ritual, using Murgo, an infant Great One, as bait. Their failure resulted in the stillbirth of their brains, their bodies frozen in death, while their consciousness persists in nightmare. They understood part of the truth, but not enough to safely navigate the cosmic reproductive system they were trying to exploit. The One Reborn, their attempt at creating an artificial Great One, stands as a testament to humanity's inability to replicate through science what the moon presence achieves through the hunt. Queen Yharnam, found weeping in the dungeons and later encountered before Murgo's wet nurse, represents the Pthumerian civilization's earlier entanglement with this same cycle. Her child, Mergo, exists in a state between life and death, its consciousness preserved in nightmare while its physical form remains uncertain. The Pthumerians' fall parallels what's happening to Yharnam, a civilization that reached too greedily toward the cosmos and became consumed by the very forces they sought to harness. But their failure was also a success from the moon presence's perspective, as it provided the old blood that would enable future attempts at creating surrogates. The Chalice dungeons themselves serve as an archaeological record of previous civilizations' attempts to understand and survive the Great One's reproductive needs. Each layer deeper reveals older attempts, failed experiments, and the gradual realization that humanity's role in the cosmic order isn't as partners or worshippers, but as raw material for transformation. The Pthumerian queen at the bottom of these dungeons doesn't rule over a kingdom, but over a graveyard of ambitions that reached too far into territories where human consciousness was never meant to venture. Rum, the vacuous spider, holds special significance in the moon presence's plan. As a former Bergenworth student who achieved a successful transformation into a kin Great One, Rum serves as proof that humans can become something more. But her transformation came at the cost of her intelligence. She's vacuous, empty-headed, operating on instinct rather than consciousness. Her existence holds back the blood moon and the full revelation of the cosmos' true nature. When the hunter kills Rum, they don't just progress the night, they remove one of the last barriers preventing the moon presence from fully manifesting its influence over reality. The blood moon that appears after Ram's death doesn't just signal the hunt's escalation, it represents the moon presence's grip tightening on reality itself. The boundaries between waking and dreaming, human and beast, mortal and cosmic begin to collapse. Amygdalae become visible on building facades where they've always been, watching and waiting. The pregnancy that's been gestating throughout the night, whether Ariana's child, Murgo's cry, or the hunter's own transformation, approaches its violent birth. The chapel dweller and his safe haven represent one of the few spaces in Yharnam where the moon presence's influence feels diminished, though not absent. This kindly, inhuman figure offers genuine sanctuary without asking for blood or service in return. Yet even this kindness serves the greater purpose, as survivors gathered there become witnesses to Ariana's pregnancy, a Great One's child growing in real time, demonstrating the reproductive cycle that drives everything. The chapel dweller's ignorance of the cosmic forces at play makes him perhaps the only truly innocent character in the entire narrative. Ariana's pregnancy, which progresses from conception to birth within a single night of the hunt, demonstrates the accelerated timeline Great Ones operate on when attempting reproduction. Her child, one of the umbilical cords needed for the true ending, represents Edon's attempt at creating a surrogate, a process the moon presence must prevent or co-opt. The fact that consuming this cord helps the hunter resist the moon presence suggests that understanding different Great Ones' reproductive methods provides immunity to any single entity's control. The celestial emissaries found in the Upper Cathedral Ward and throughout the Chalice dungeons represent the choir's attempts at artificially creating kin humans transformed into something closer to Great Ones. These bulbous-headed creatures with their galaxy-filled skulls achieved partial success, but they're servants rather than children, tools rather than surrogates. Their existence proves that transformation is possible, but also that not all transformations achieve what the Great Ones actually need. Ebrietas, daughter of the cosmos, weeping in the altar of despair, might be the most successful surrogate prior to the hunter's potential transformation. Left behind when the other Great Ones ascended to higher planes, she represents both success and failure. A being that achieved Great One status but remains trapped in a physical realm she's outgrown. Her cooperation with the choir suggests that even successful surrogates remain bound to the cycle, helping create more of their kind rather than transcending the system entirely. The living failures in the research hall represent the Church's systematic attempts to recreate the hunter's journey through artificial means. These patients, transformed through experimentation rather than the hunt, achieved partial cosmic awareness but failed to complete the transformation. They attack with cosmic powers but lack the consciousness to direct them properly. Their boss fight, where multiple failures must be defeated while meteors rain from above, serves as a metaphor for humanity's repeated attempts to break free from the role assigned to us by entities whose motivations we can barely comprehend. Ludwig, the first church hunter, transformed into a hideous beast that still clutches his holy blade, represents the fate of those who serve the hunt too zealously without understanding its true purpose. His transformation into a horse-like monstrosity suggests that excessive dedication to hunting leads not to transcendence, but to a different kind of damnation. Yet even in his bestial state, he can achieve moments of clarity, asking if his hunters became the honorable Spartans he hoped they would be. The answer, of course, depends on whether you consider serving as unwitting pawns in a cosmic reproductive war to be honorable. The Orphan of Kos, perhaps the most visceral boss in the game, represents the ultimate tragedy of the Great One's reproductive cycle. Born from a murdered mother, wielding its own placenta as a weapon, screaming its birth rage into an uncaring cosmos, the orphan embodies every Great One's loss and humanity's role in perpetuating it. Defeating the orphan doesn't break the cycle but continues it. Another Great One's child lost, another vacancy in the cosmic nursery that needs filling. The curse placed upon hunters ensures that this cycle of loss and seeking will continue indefinitely. The significance of eyes throughout Bloodborne, eyes on the inside, eyes granted by the cosmos, eyes as a symbol of insight, takes on new meaning when understood through the lens of surrogate creation. Eyes don't just represent knowledge, but the ability to perceive realities necessary for transformation. The more eyes one has, the closer one comes to seeing reality as great ones see it. And seeing reality from their perspective means understanding humanity's true role in their reproductive agenda. But this sight comes at the cost of human sanity, as mortal minds weren't meant to process these truths. The insight mechanic itself serves as a measurement of how close a hunter has come to understanding and accepting their role in the Moon Presence's plan. Higher insight reveals hidden truths, the amygdalae on buildings, the true appearance of certain enemies, the cosmic nature of seemingly mundane objects. But it also makes one more vulnerable to frenzy, that state where too much truth overwhelms the human mind's ability to maintain its necessary delusions. The game mechanically reinforces that approaching the truth of the hunt's purpose is inherently dangerous to one's humanity. The dull statement that hunters may use the dream, even should it be at the cost of their humanity, isn't just about the moral compromises required to hunt. It's a literal statement about what the dream does, strips away humanity layer by layer until what remains can serve as a suitable vessel for a great one's consciousness. Every level gained, every echo of blood absorbed, every point of insight accumulated moves the hunter further from their human origin and closer to something that can fulfill the Moon Presence's needs. When we examine the game's fundamental gameplay loop, hunt beasts, gain blood echoes, return to the dream, level up, hunt stronger beasts, we see the Moon Presence's selection mechanism in action. Hunters who die repeatedly and give up have proven themselves unsuitable. Those who persist, who grow stronger, who accumulate enough power and insight to face cosmic truths, these are the candidates worthy of transformation. The game's difficulty isn't just a design choice, it's a reflection of the rigorous selection process required to create a suitable surrogate. The Moon Presence's apparent defeat in the third ending might not be a defeat at all, but the ultimate success of its plan. By creating a hunter powerful enough to destroy it and transform into an infant Great One, it has achieved what no other Great One has managed, the creation of a true surrogate child from human stock. The cycle doesn't end with the Moon Presence's death, but evolves into something new, with humanity's role forever changed by this successful transformation. As we reach the culmination of our investigation into the Moon Presence's secret war, the true horror of Bloodborne's narrative becomes clear. Every heroic hunter who thought they were saving Gehrman, every scholar who believed they were advancing human knowledge, every blood minister who imagined they were healing the sick, all of them were merely participants in a reproductive cycle so alien that understanding it fundamentally breaks the human concept of purpose and meaning. The hunt was never about the beasts. It was never about saving Gehrman or protecting humanity. It was always about selection, transformation, and reproduction on a cosmic scale that reduces human civilization to little more than a nursery where great ones attempt to cultivate their replacements for lost children. The blood moon that rises over Gehrman doesn't signal danger to be fought, but a birth about to occur, a transformation about to complete, a surrogate about to be claimed or created. The citizens who beg hunters to stay away, who board up their doors and windows, who've given up hope of survival, perhaps they understand on some instinctual level what the hunters don't. That the true plague upon Gehrman isn't beasthood, but the attention of entities whose needs are so fundamentally opposed to human survival that cooperation means extinction or transformation into something unrecognizably inhuman. And yet, there's a twisted beauty in this cosmic horror. Humanity, insignificant as we might be in the greater cosmos, has the potential to transcend our limitations and become something greater, even if that greatness comes at the cost of everything that makes us human. The infant Great One cradled by the doll at the game's true ending represents both humanity's ultimate evolution and its complete annihilation. We can become gods, but only by ceasing to be ourselves. This is the secret the Moon Presence has hidden behind blood and beasts and endless nights of hunting. This is why Gehrman begs for death, why Willem fears the old blood, why Maria took her own life rather than continue participating. They all understood, eventually, that the hunt is not humanity's salvation, but its transformation into something else entirely. Something that serves needs we cannot comprehend for purposes that would shatter our sanity if fully revealed. The brilliant horror of Bloodborne lies not in its monsters or its violence, but in this fundamental revelation that heroism and damnation are the same thing, that ascending toward godhood means descending into inhumanity, that the very act of trying to save humanity plays into the hands of entities that view us as nothing more than potential vessels for their cosmic progeny. Every hunter who raises their soul cleaver tonight, who believes that protecting the innocent from beasts, is actually clearing the way for humanity's transformation into something that will make the beast plague look like a mercy. Thank you for joining me on this exploration into one of gaming's darkest and most intricate narratives. The truth about the Moon Presence's secret war reveals. Bloodborne not just as a game about hunting monsters, but as a meditation on humanity's place in a cosmos that neither loves nor hates us, but simply uses us for purposes we're not equipped to understand. If this deep dive into the horrifying truth behind the hunt has given you new appreciation for Bloodborne's narrative complexity, please consider subscribing to support the channel and ensure more investigations like this can continue. Share your own theories about the Moon Presence's true motivations in the comments below. After all, in a cosmos this incomprehensible, perhaps your interpretation is as valid as any other. Until next time, remember, fear the old blood, question the hunt's purpose, and may you find your worth in the waking world, for the dream is not the sanctuary it appears to be.